and welcome to This Upbeat Life, the show where we take a light-hearted look at life, what makes us tick, and explore what makes people happy. I'm Simon JJ Green, and I'll be interviewing ordinary people from all walks of life, as well as looking at the latest in wellness, health science, nature, and the quirkier side of the health and well-being industry. And please remember that the information and opinions shared on this podcast are for general knowledge and informational purposes only, and do not constitute medical advice. Now, let's get on with today's episode. Hello and welcome to episode 5 of This Upbeat Life. I'm delighted that you could join me. And on today's quick news, we'll be talking about sleep-deprived teens. On The Real Deal, we'll be looking at sunscreen contouring, and in Far Out Stuff, the man who robbed a bank to get away from his wife, but it all went horribly wrong. Okay, everybody, on quick news, here's something you didn't know. Teenagers don't get enough sleep. Well, maybe you did know that. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a teenager, I went through 2 distinct sleep phases. None at all, or needing a crane and dynamite to get me out of bed after easily sleeping for 12 hours. Now, when my children were teenagers, they too went through similar phases, though to be fair, my daughter would make Rip Van Winkle look like an amateur. But a new study suggests that teenagers who go to bed earlier and sleep longer than their peers tend to have sharper mental skills and better cognitive performance. And you're probably sitting there thinking, well, duh. Well, the researchers tracked over 3,000 adolescents using sleep monitors, brain scans, and a series of mental acuity tests. And the results? Apparently, even small differences in longer sleep duration had a noticeable improvement on memory, vocabulary, and problem-solving abilities. Now, the group with the best sleep habits, early to bed, longest sleep, lowest resting heart rates, etc., scored the highest. They even had larger brain volumes and more efficient brain function. That sounds a bit like those Talosian aliens on early Star Trek episodes. Now, Professor Barbara Sahakian of Cambridge, who is not a Talosian, I think, and led the study, said, "We think it's the sleep driving the better cognitive abilities. Even small differences add up over time." So there you have it, straight from a professor's mouth. But here's the kicker. None of the teenagers studied were getting the recommended 8 to 10 hours of sleep. They were still averaging 6 to 7 hours a night. Who knew? So even those with the best habits were still slightly underslept, if that's a word. This means that marginal improvements in sleep could lead to major cognitive gains. Now, the experts have made the usual recommendations of cutting out screen time before bed, adding regular exercise, and so on. But get this, they've also suggested including sleep education in school curriculums. Sounds to me like those experts don't have kids. Anyway, Professor Colin Espy from Oxford calls this a public health issue, pointing out that weekday sleep loss leads to what is called social jet lag. Nope, I don't know what that is either, so I looked it up. Basically, it means that your natural sleep schedule is at odds with how society runs. For example, your body might naturally want to sleep in until 11 a.m., but because of society's norms of a 9 to 5 work week, doing so means you might get fired. Now, my take on this is that in reality, it's hard to persuade a teenager to go to bed early and ban screen time when the parents do the opposite and stay up late and are glued to their phones, especially modern teens that are now raised by TikTok and the obsession of always being connected. But I would say that you've got nothing to lose. If you're a teenager, you could do your own experiment and try an early night with a full 8 to 10 hours for 3 or 4 days and see if it makes any difference to your day. Your brain will thank you, probably. And if you do manage to do this miracle, drop me a line at thisupbeatlife@gmail.com, quoting the episode number, and let me know if this actually makes a difference. Now, on to the next segment of the show. On The Real Deal, we're looking at sunscreen contouring. A friend pointed this out as a trend on social media. I've never heard of it before, so I did some investigating. I'm going to skip the vaginal steaming, the yoni eggs, and the butthole suntanning and dive straight into sunscreen contouring, because why not? And I hadn't heard of the other things either before I did the research. Just putting that out there. Sunscreen contouring, or SPF, sun protection factor contouring, is an on and off TikTok stroke social media trend that is said to be potentially dangerous. The idea is that you can have a facial contour without using makeup and use sunscreen instead. Now, I have to admit that I have no idea what contouring is, and so I had to ask people. First up, my partner. She said it was something to do with makeup, but since she doesn't wear any, that's as far as we got. I don't know any blokes or male friends that wear makeup outside of the house, so I next asked some young women aged between 14 and 25 if they knew what it was. You'll have to excuse the recording quality. I had to use my phone.
I understand the concept.
Okay. So, Amber, have you heard of contouring in terms of makeup?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does that mean?
It's like you can define your face with it. Like you put it on your cheekbones and maybe your forehead as well.
Oh, okay. So what about this sunscreen contouring? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I have.
All right. Have you seen it on TikTok? Or
Yeah, I've seen it on TikTok.
You've seen it on TikTok. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you do that?
Personally, no.
Why?
I'm a ginger, so I burn really easily.
You're a ginger and you burn it. Okay,
yeah.
Same as me. I'm a ginger.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
It's okay.
Okay. So in terms of things like makeup, what is contouring?
It's where you define your cheekbones.
Using makeup?
Yes.
Yeah. So have you heard of sunscreen contouring?
Yes. I've heard of fake tan contouring as well. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what's that then?
Where you don't apply sunscreen
in the areas
in
you want
the
to
area
contour.
where it wants darker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does it work?
I've not tried.
Wouldn't try for me. I'm too pale. I'd burn.
Ah. So would you say it's a good thing or a bad thing?
It's probably bad for your skin.
Yeah. Skin cancer wise.
But you might look great.
Okay. Well, the main thing is I want to know if you guys have heard of it or not before. Thank you.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you. So there you have it. And according to the font of all known knowledge in the universe, which is the internet and not my partner this time, it is the practice of using different strengths of sunscreen applied to the face and then tanning yourself to allow particular areas of the face to bronze more than others. This creates a similar effect to that of contouring, but without using makeup. Now, the person uses the strategic placement of lower SPF sunscreen to create tan lines to contour the face or other body parts, like the abs. I should try that on my dad bod. Thus, by creating artificial tan lines across the face, the user will be left naturally contoured by the power of the sun. But is it safe? Well, I think we all know the answer to this one. I looked up 11 dermatologist experts who had something to say about this trend, and not a single one thought it was a good idea. Surprise! Now, some advocates of the trend, or hack as it's also known, say that you should first layer on an SPF of 30. Apparently, this is usually the minimum SPF requirement, before doing anything else. But many people trying this trend skip the SPF base layer altogether and just use the sunscreen to protect some parts of the skin, exposing the rest of it to get a tan, or also known as sun damage. Now, I'm not a stick in the mud. When I was a teen, I wanted that bronzed, glowing tan just like all my friends. The problem was that I was a ginger, a proper ginger, so I did not tan like anyone else. And if there are any other gingers out there, then they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Some parts of me tanned, some got burnt, and some stayed stubbornly white, sunscreen or not. I ended up looking like a Neapolitan ice cream. And on top of that, a close friend of mine, also a ginger, got skin cancer on her arm and lost a good chunk of the muscle tissue to the disease. Thankfully, they were able to save the arm, but she was 16 at the time, and this ended up having a lasting effect on her self-esteem. So let's quickly talk about sun tanning or sunburning, whichever way you want to see it. As you may well know, the ultraviolet or UV rays that give you your golden summer tan are the same rays that cause skin damage, including wrinkles, age spots, and of more concern, skin cancers. Now, this is skin damage at a cellular level and is no joke, though I guess that means that the skin that has been regularly covered in sunscreen will appear more youthful and radiant compared to the skin that's been exposed over time to the sun. So you'll end up with parts of your face all wrinkly with sunspots and other bits all looking young and smooth. Weird. But wait, there is hope if you want to go down the contouring path, but you would like to lessen your chances of skin cancer. Apparently, you can use a self-tanner or fake tan. Again, I know absolutely nothing about these things, so I could be talking out of my hat. But I have once more asked young women in the know, and many of them have said that yes, this is a thing. But so is using makeup for the same effect. And if you are desperate and do want to go down the self-tanning route, 4 women, and no men, have told me that Lusso Self-Tanning Mousse by Dolce is the best. Other self-tanning products are also available. I've been told to say that. So, there you have it. Sunscreen contouring is a no-no, but self-tan contouring is a win, and so is the use of makeup. If you have tried sunscreen contouring or want to say something about it, drop me a line at thisupbeatlife@gmail.com and let me know how it went. Did it make you look like a Greek goddess or god? Or did it all go wrong and you had uneven tan lines and it turned out to be a hot mess? And on far out stuff today, the man who robbed a bank to get away from his wife. Now, despite our eternal pursuit of happiness, all couples go through a rough patch in life at some point. One partner gets annoyed at the other for putting their elbows on the table at dinner, or maybe the other one zones out of conversations while they're staring at their phone and picking their teeth. But most couples eventually kiss and make up. Occasionally, though, differences can't be resolved or talked through, and more extreme measures are taken. And in 2017, Lawrence John Ripple was no exception. He'd had a falling out with his wife, and he told her in no uncertain terms that he would rather be in jail than stay another day at home. I don't know what he's talking about. He then proceeded to make good on his threat, and he wrote a note in front of her and marched off to a local bank in Kansas to rob it, so he could be arrested and be put in jail. Now, Lawrence, who was 70 at the time, walked into the Bank of Labor just down the street from Kansas City Police Headquarters with a note saying that he had a gun and demanding money. Now, after the teller handed him nearly $3,000 in cash, Mr. Ripple waited patiently in the lobby for the police to arrive. Now, prior to the robbery, Lawrence was a normal, law-abiding man, a husband and stepfather to 4 children. The public defender called the robbery a cry for help because Mr. Ripple was not a well man, having undergone a multi-bypass heart surgery a few years before, as well as suffering from depression. Nowadays, it's normal for someone who commits a bank robbery to be remanded to prison. And in Mr. Ripple's case, he could have faced up to 37 months in jail as per local law. However, at the sentencing trial, the vice president of the bank and the teller were very understanding and both supported a request for leniency for Mr. Ripple given his state of mental health. Mr. Ripple said that he had sought medical help for his mental health and said he felt almost like his old self. Now, U.S. District Court Judge Carlos Mercuria deliberated the evidence and took into consideration that Mr. Ripple immediately returned the money when found by the bank security guard and police, and that the gun that he said he had didn't exist. In fact, the only things found on him were a pair of nail clippers and a hairbrush. Despite his best efforts to be arrested and sent to jail to escape his wife, the judge ordered that Mr. Ripple be sentenced to, wait for it, house arrest for 6 months. Yes, stuck at home for 6 months with his wife. He was also to serve 3 years of supervised probation and do 50 hours of community service. Mr. Ripple was ordered to pay $227.27 to the bank, which were the billable hours for bank employees sent home on the day of the robbery, and he was also required to give $100 to a crime victims fund. So, it looks like crime really doesn't pay. Until next time, remember, happiness is the best medicine. Okay, that wraps up the show for today. Thanks for your time and for listening. As always, I'd appreciate it if you could like, follow and subscribe to my show, This Upbeat Life, so I know I'm on the right track. And even better, leave a review and share it with your friends. Now, here on This Upbeat Life, you can share your thoughts, you can ask questions, and be part of our growing community. And if you've got a story for far out stuff, or you just want to get in touch with your health and wellness stories and ideas, then email me at thisupbeatlife@gmail.com and I'll read it out on the next show. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram as This Upbeat Life and on Blue Sky as Simon JJ Green. And until next time, remember, happiness is the best medicine.